The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor of the Riverside Country Club, sending crystal shards skittering across the polished surface like scattered diamonds. Fatima Smith, 7 years old with her hair in 2 carefully braided pigtails, froze mid-step, her small hands still clutching the silver tray that had held the glass just seconds before. "You clumsy little brat." Amanda Whitmore's voice cut through the elegant buzz of the wedding reception like a whip crack. "Do you have any idea how much that glass cost? More than your mother makes in a week, I'm sure." Fatima's dark eyes went wide with fear, her lower lip trembling as she looked down at the mess. She'd been trying so hard to be helpful, to show her mama that she could be good while mama worked the double shift. The club manager had said it was fine for Fatima to stay in the back during mama's Saturday evening shift, as long as she didn't cause trouble. But a drunk guest had stumbled, knocking into Fatima as she'd been carefully carrying discarded glasses to the service station, and now everything was ruined. "I'm sorry," Fatima whispered, her voice barely audible over the string quartet playing in the corner. "I didn't mean to." The slap came so fast that Fatima didn't even see it coming. "Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you." Amanda's manicured hand connected with the little girl's cheek with a crack that seemed to echo through the suddenly silent ballroom. Fatima stumbled backward, her hand flying to her face as tears sprang immediately to her eyes. The metallic taste of blood filled her mouth where her tooth had cut the inside of her cheek. "Amanda!" Someone gasped from the crowd of wealthy guests, but no one moved to help. "That's what happens when trash raises trash," Amanda announced loudly, her face flushed with champagne and righteous indignation. She was magnificent in her fury, dripping in Harry Winston diamonds, her blonde hair styled in perfect waves, her Vera Wang gown pristine. "Where is this child's mother? What kind of establishment allows children of the help to roam around unsupervised?" Fatima pressed herself against the wall, her whole body shaking. She wanted her mama. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. Around her, the wealthy guests stared, some with shock, others with barely concealed agreement, and still others looked away, uncomfortable but unwilling to intervene. Then came the voice that changed everything. "Step away from the child. Now." The words were spoken quietly, but they carried absolute authority that made even the music seem to fade. Every head in the ballroom turned toward the entrance where a man stood silhouetted against the light from the hallway. Gerald Mendez moved into the room with a kind of presence that couldn't be taught or bought. He was 42 years old, 6 feet 4 inches of controlled power, wearing a midnight blue Tom Ford suit that emphasized his broad shoulders. His salt and pepper hair was styled back from a face that was all sharp angles and barely contained danger, a strong jaw, a nose that had been broken at least twice, and dark eyes that held the kind of cold fury that made grown men step back instinctively. The tattoo on his neck, partially visible above his crisp white collar, marked him as dangerous. Everyone in New York's elite circles knew Gerald Mendez by reputation, even if they pretended they didn't. Real estate mogul, they called him publicly. But whispers spoke of other businesses, darker dealings, connections that made prosecutors nervous and rivals disappear. He crossed the ballroom floor with measured steps, and the crowd parted for him like the Red Sea. His eyes were locked on Fatima, still pressed against the wall with tears streaming down her face and a red handprint blazing on her cheek. "Mr. Mendez," Amanda began, her voice suddenly uncertain. She'd recognized him, and the color was draining from her face. "This child, she destroyed property, and I was simply—" "You were simply assaulting a 7-year-old girl," Gerald interrupted, his voice like ice. He reached Fatima and dropped to one knee in front of her, his large frame suddenly gentle as he carefully examined her injured face. "Principessa," he murmured, using the Italian endearment with tenderness that contrasted sharply with the rage radiating from every line of his body. "Let me see." Fatima looked up at him with tear-filled eyes, her small hand still pressed to her burning cheek. "Mr. Gerald." Her voice was tiny, confused. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for the Whitmore Santiago wedding," he said softly, producing a pristine handkerchief from his pocket and gently dabbing at her split lip. "But more importantly, I'm here for you now. Did she hurt you anywhere else?" Fatima shook her head, new tears spilling over. "I broke a glass. It was an accident. A man bumped me, and I tried to hold on, but—" "Sure, none of that was your fault." Gerald's jaw tightened as he stood, lifting Fatima into his arms as if she weighed nothing. She wrapped her small arms around his neck instinctively, burying her face against his shoulder. He turned to face Amanda, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. "That's my goddaughter," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the silent ballroom. "And you just made the worst mistake of your life." Amanda's face went from pale to ashen. I didn't know. She was just a child doing nothing wrong," Gerald cut her off. "A child you assaulted in front of 50 witnesses. Do you understand what you've done, Mrs. Whitmore?" "It was just discipline," Amanda tried, her voice shaking now. "She destroyed expensive property. She's 7 years old." Gerald's voice was deadly quiet now, which was somehow more terrifying than if he'd shouted. "And you hit her hard enough to split her lip and leave a mark that will last for days. That's not discipline. That's assault. And it happened to the one child in this entire city who is under my personal protection." The implications hung in the air. Around the ballroom, guests shifted uncomfortably. Some were already pulling out phones, no doubt texting their lawyers or their publicists. This was going to be a scandal. "Gerald, perhaps we should discuss this privately," came a smooth voice from the side. Martin Whitmore, Amanda's husband, approached with his hands raised placatingly. He was a hedge fund manager, wealthy and connected, but even he looked nervous. "I'm sure Amanda didn't realize that assaulting children is wrong." Gerald's attention shifted to Martin, and the man actually took a step back. "Or didn't realize that this particular child is precious to me." "Because I'm not sure which answer makes your wife look worse." "Please," Martin tried again. "Let's be reasonable. We can compensate." "You think money fixes this?" For the first time, Gerald's voice rose, and the raw fury in it made several people flinch. "You think you can write a check and make me forget that your wife struck Fatima hard enough to make her bleed?" In his arms, Fatima was crying quietly, her small body shaking. Gerald adjusted his hold on her, one hand cradling her head protectively against his chest. "Where is Maya?" he asked, his voice shifting slightly. "Where is Fatima's mother?" "The waitress." The club manager appeared, wringing his hands nervously. "Mrs. Smith is in the kitchen, sir." "I can fetch her." "Do it. Now." Gerald's eyes swept the room, landing on the wedding couple who stood frozen by the champagne fountain. "And someone tell the bride and groom that their reception is over. This venue is closed as of this moment." "You can't," Amanda started. "I own this building," Gerald said flatly. "The Riverside Country Club operates on property I purchased 3 years ago. So yes, Mrs. Whitmore, I absolutely can. And I am. Everyone out. Now." The silence that followed was broken only by Fatima's quiet sobs. Then chaos erupted. Guests grabbing their things, the wedding party in shocked disarray, the club staff scrambling to respond to this unprecedented situation. Through it all, Gerald stood motionless in the center of the ballroom, holding Fatima close, his dark eyes promising retribution to anyone who even thought about arguing with him. And somewhere in the kitchen, Maya Smith was about to discover that the night she thought couldn't get any worse was actually about to change her entire life. Maya Smith had been a waitress at the Riverside Country Club for exactly 8 months when she first met Gerald Mendez, though she didn't know his name then. She only knew that he was bleeding. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday night in November. Maya was finishing her closing duties, wiping down tables in the empty dining room, when she heard the sound, a heavy thud from the service entrance, followed by labored breathing. She should have called security. Any sensible person would have. But Maya had grown up in the Bronx, the daughter of a single mother who'd taught her that sometimes people needed help more than they needed judgment. So instead, she grabbed the first aid kit from behind the bar and went to investigate. The man was slumped against the wall just inside the service door, his expensive suit soaked with blood. He was conscious but barely, one hand pressed against his side where dark red was seeping between his fingers. His face was pale, covered in sweat, but even in obvious pain, there was something commanding about him. "Jesus," Maya breathed, dropping to her knees beside him. "What happened? I need to call an ambulance." "No." His hand shot out, catching her wrist with surprising strength. His dark eyes locked onto hers with fierce intensity. "No hospitals. No police." Maya's heart hammered in her chest. She knew what this meant. Knew that helping this man could mean getting involved in something dangerous. But she also saw the desperation in his eyes, the way he was struggling to stay conscious. "I'm a trained EMT," she said quietly. "I let my certification lapse because I couldn't afford the renewal fees, but I know what I'm doing. Let me see." Something flickered in his gaze, surprise, maybe, or reassessment. Slowly, he removed his hand from the wound. Maya carefully lifted his shirt and assessed the damage. Gunshot wound, through and through, missing anything vital but bleeding heavily. "You're lucky," she said, already pulling supplies from the first aid kit. "Bullet went clean through. Looks like it missed your organs." She met his eyes. "This is going to hurt. Can you stay quiet?" He nodded once, his jaw clenched. For the next 40 minutes, Maya worked with steady hands and fierce concentration. She cleaned the wound with antiseptic, packed it with gauze, wrapped it tightly. The man never made a sound, though she could see the pain in every line of his body, the sweat that poured down his face, the white-knuckled grip he had on the edge of a table. "You need antibiotics," she said when she was finally done. "And proper medical care. This is just first aid." "I'll handle it." His voice was rough but stronger than before. He was looking at her with something like wonder. Why did you help me?" Maya sat back on her heels, suddenly aware of how much blood was on her hands, on her uniform. "Because you needed help." "That's enough reason. Most people would have called the police. Most people didn't grow up where I did." Maya stood, offering him her hand. "Can you walk? You can't stay here. The night manager does rounds at midnight." He took her hand, and even weakened, his grip was solid. She helped him to his feet, steadying him when he swayed. He was tall, she barely came up to his shoulder, and built like someone who knew how to fight. "What's your name?" he asked as she supported his weight, guiding him toward the back exit. "Maya." "Maya Smith." "Maya." He repeated it like he was memorizing something important. "I'm Gerald." "Well, Gerald, you need to get somewhere safe. Do you have someone you can call?" They'd reached the exit. Outside, a black car was waiting, idling in the shadows. Gerald straightened, pulling away from her support though she could see the effort it cost him. "Thank you," he said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a business card, pressed it into her hand. "If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you call that number. Day or night." Maya looked at the card. It was simple, elegant, just a phone number embossed in gold. No name, no business. "I don't want money for this," she said quickly. "I just wanted to help." "I know." Something in his voice made her look up. "That's exactly why you'll have it. Maya Smith, you saved my life tonight. That creates a debt I take very seriously." Before she could respond, he was moving toward the car. The door opened, and Maya caught a glimpse of other men inside, all looking grim and dangerous. Gerald paused before getting in. "Keep that card safe," he called back. "And Maya, thank you for seeing someone who needed help instead of someone to fear." The car door closed, and then they were gone, leaving Maya standing in the cold November night with blood on her hands and a business card that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She'd tucked the card into her wallet that night, never expecting to need it. She was wrong. Maya was elbow-deep in dishwater when the kitchen door burst open with enough force to make her jump. The club manager, Mr. Peterson, stood there looking panicked, his face red and sweating. "Maya, you need to come to the ballroom. Now." Her heart dropped. What happened? Did I forget something? Did a guest complain? "It's Fatima." The world stopped. What about Fatima? Maya's voice was deadly calm even as terror clawed at her chest. "I left her in the break room with her coloring books. She was supposed to stay there." "She came out to help clear glasses," Peterson said quickly. "Someone bumped into her, and she dropped one, and then Amanda Whitmore." Maya didn't wait to hear the rest. She was already running, stripping off her apron as she moved, her wet hands leaving damp prints on the walls as she navigated the hallway toward the ballroom. Her baby. Someone had done something to her baby. The ballroom doors were open, and Maya burst through them into chaos. The room was emptying, guests streaming toward the exits with unusual urgency. The bride was crying. The groom was shouting into his phone. And in the center of it all stood a man holding her daughter. "Fatima." Maya's voice cracked as she ran across the ballroom. The man turned, and Maya's world tilted on its axis. Gerald Mendez. 3 years older than the night she'd patched his gunshot wound, but unmistakable. The same dark eyes, the same commanding presence, though now dressed in wealth and power that hadn't been as obvious that desperate night. "Mama." Fatima reached for her, and Gerald carefully transferred the little girl into Maya's arms. Maya held her daughter tight, her hands running over her, checking for injuries. That's when she saw it, the red mark blazing on Fatima's cheek, the split lip, the tear-stained face. Who did this? Maya's voice was shaking with a fury she'd never felt before. Who touched my daughter? A woman named Amanda Whitmore, Gerald said quietly. She slapped Fatima for accidentally breaking a glass. Maya's eyes snapped to his, and he saw the mother bear emerge, all protective rage and barely contained violence. Where is she? Being escorted out by security. Gerald gestured to where two large men in suits were indeed herding a protesting Amanda toward the exit. But Maya, we need to talk. You and Fatima aren't safe here. What are you talking about? Maya pulled Fatima closer, suddenly suspicious. How do you even know my daughter? Why did you call her your goddaughter? Gerald's expression softened slightly. Because I've been watching over both of you for 3 years. Making sure you were safe, that you had what you needed. Did you ever wonder why your landlord suddenly reduced your rent? Why Fatima got that scholarship to St. Catherine's Academy? Why you kept getting raises here even when other staff members were being cut? Maya stared at him, pieces clicking into place. That was you. You saved my life, Maya. I told you I'd repay that debt. He glanced at Fatima, who was watching him with wide, curious eyes. When I had you investigated, just for security purposes, he added quickly at her sharp look, I learned you had a daughter. A beautiful little girl who deserved better than the hand life had dealt her. So I became her godfather. Unofficially, maybe, but no less seriously. You had no right, Maya started, anger and confusion warring in her chest. I had every right, Gerald interrupted gently. You gave me my life back. Let me give your daughter the life she deserves. Mr. Gerald helped me, Fatima said suddenly, her small voice cutting through the tension. That lady hurt me, and he made her stop. He called me Principessa. Maya's eyes burned with unshed tears as she looked at her daughter's injured face, then back at Gerald's serious expression. She should be angry. Should tell him to stay away from her family. But Fatima was hurt, and this dangerous man had protected her when no one else had. We need to get ice on that, Gerald said, his voice gentling. And I have my personal physician on call. He'll come to wherever you're comfortable, your apartment, my car, wherever, and make sure she's okay. I can take care of my own daughter, Maya said, but there was less heat in it now. I know you can. You've been doing it alone for 7 years, and you've done a remarkable job. Gerald took a step closer, his dark eyes intense. But you don't have to do it alone anymore, Maya. That's what I've been trying to tell you for 3 years. You're not alone. You have me. The weight of those words settled over them both. Around them, the ballroom continued to empty, but it felt like they were in their own bubble, Maya, Gerald, and Fatima, forming some kind of triangle that felt both dangerous and right. Mama, I'm tired, Fatima murmured against Maya's shoulder. I know, baby girl. We'll go home soon. Let me drive you, Gerald offered. My car is more comfortable, and we can stop by a pharmacy for pain medication if Fatima needs it. Maya should say no. Should maintain the boundaries between her world and his. But she looked at her daughter's pale, tear-stained face and the genuine concern in Gerald's eyes, and found herself nodding. Okay, she whispered. But just a ride home. Nothing more. Gerald's smile was small but triumphant. Just a ride home, he agreed. But they both knew it was a lie. The moment Amanda Whitmore had laid hands on Fatima, everything had changed. Gerald Mendez had just publicly claimed them as his, and in his world, that meant something. Maya Smith's carefully constructed life of independence and self-sufficiency was about to become very, very complicated. Gerald's car was nothing like Maya had expected. She'd imagined something ostentatious, a limousine, maybe, dripping with wealth and intimidation. Instead, it was a sleek black Mercedes SUV with tinted windows, expensive but understated. The interior smelled of leather and something subtly masculine, cedar, maybe, or sandalwood. Marco, Gerald's driver, was a man in his 50s with kind eyes and gentle hands. He helped Maya settle Fatima into the back seat, producing a soft blanket from somewhere and tucking it around the little girl with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this before. She'll be comfortable, Mrs. Smith, Marco said with a slight Italian accent. The seats are heated, and there's water in the console if she needs it. Gerald slid in beside them while another man, younger, harder-looking, took the passenger seat. Maya noticed the bulge under his jacket that suggested a weapon and felt her stomach tighten.
This was Gerald's world. Dangerous. Protected. Nothing like her own.
This is Victor, Gerald said, noticing her gaze. His head of my personal security. Victor, this is Maya Smith and her daughter, Fatima. They are under my protection now. Full detail, starting immediately. Victor turned to assess them with professional eyes that softened slightly when they landed on Fatima's injured face. Understood, boss. I'll have a team at their residence within the hour. Wait, what?
Maya's head snapped up.
A team at my residence?
Gerald, that's not necessary.
It's not negotiable. Gerald's voice was gentle but firm. Amanda Whitmore assaulted your daughter in front of 50 witnesses, and I publicly declared Fatima my goddaughter. That makes you both targets.
Targets for what?
She's just a rich woman with a temper, not a criminal.
Gerald's smile was without humor.
Maya, Amanda Whitmore's maiden name is Castellano. Her father is Vincent Castellano, who has connections to 3 different crime families in New York. Her brother is currently under federal investigation for racketeering. And her husband, Martin, launders money through his hedge fund for people who make me look like a Boy Scout. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. You're joking. I wish I were. Gerald reached over and gently adjusted the blanket around Fatima, who was drowsing against Maya's shoulder. The moment I declared Fatima my goddaughter in front of that crowd, I painted a target on both of you. The Castellanos don't forgive public humiliation, and I just humiliated Amanda in front of New York's elite. They'll come after me by going after what I've claimed as mine. We're not yours, Maya said automatically, even as fear coiled in her stomach. Gerald's eyes met hers, dark and intense. Yes, you are. The moment you saved my life, Maya, you became mine to protect. And Fatima. He looked at the little girl with something tender in his expression. I've been watching her grow up for 3 years through reports and photographs. I was there, in the back, when she performed in her first school play. I saw her win that spelling bee at St. Catherine's. I know she's terrified of thunderstorms and loves strawberry ice cream and wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up.
She's been mine for a long time.
I just made it official tonight. Maya didn't know what to say. Part of her was furious. He'd been watching her daughter?
Invading their privacy?
But another part, the part that had struggled alone for 7 years, felt something dangerously close to relief.
Someone was watching. Someone cared enough to be there, even from the shadows.
Where are we going? She asked finally, noticing they weren't heading toward her apartment in Washington Heights.
To get Fatima checked out.
My physician, Dr. Russo, is waiting at my penthouse. It's closer than your apartment, more secure, and he has everything needed to examine her properly. After that, I'll take you wherever you want to go. Your place, a hotel, my guest suite. Your choice.
Your penthouse. Maya shook her head. This is insane.
12 hours ago, I was just a waitress trying to get through another Saturday night shift. And now you're a mother whose daughter was assaulted, and who has the protection of the most powerful man in New York.
Gerald's voice was matter-of-fact.
Life changes fast, Maya. I learned that 3 years ago when you could have let me bleed out but chose to save me instead. The penthouse was in Tribeca, occupying the entire top floor of a building that probably cost more than Maya would earn in 10 lifetimes. The elevator opened directly into the apartment. No hallway, no neighbors, just a sprawling space of floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, and art that looked museum quality. Dr. Russo was waiting in the living room, a silver-haired man in his 60s with gentle hands and a warm smile. He examined Fatima with practiced efficiency while Maya hovered nearby, watching every movement. No concussion, Dr. Russo announced after checking Fatima's eyes and reflexes. The lip will heal on its own, no stitches needed. The bruising will be worse tomorrow, but I'll leave some arnica gel to help with that. She's a brave girl. The bravest, Gerald agreed, having watched the entire examination from a respectful distance. He'd removed his suit jacket and rolled up his shirt sleeves, and Maya found herself noticing the tattoos that decorated his forearms, intricate designs that looked like they told stories she didn't know. Can I give her something for the pain? Dr. Russo asked Maya. Just children's ibuprofen, properly dosed for her weight. Maya nodded, and after administering the medication, Dr. Russo packed up his bag. Call me if anything changes, fever, increased pain, anything concerning. Otherwise, she'll be fine. Kids are resilient. After the doctor left, Fatima finally fell asleep on one of Gerald's massive couches, curled up under the blanket Marco had provided. Maya sat beside her, one hand gently stroking her daughter's hair, while Gerald stood by the windows, looking out at the glittering Manhattan skyline. "I can't afford this," Maya said quietly, breaking the silence. "Whatever protection you're offering, whatever this is, I can't pay you back for it."
"I'm not asking you to pay me back."
Gerald turned from the window.
"This isn't a transaction, Maya.
This is me fulfilling a promise I made 3 years ago."
"You don't owe me anything."
"I did what anyone would have done."
"No."
Gerald crossed the room, settling into the chair across from her. "Most people would have called the police or walked away. You risked your job, possibly your freedom, to help a stranger who was clearly involved in something illegal. You gave me my life back without asking for anything in return. Do you know how rare that is? How precious?" Maya met his eyes, seeing the sincerity there. "You've already repaid me. The rent reduction, the scholarship, the raises, that's more than enough." "It's not nearly enough." Gerald leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Maya, you're working 3 jobs to support Fatima.
You're exhausted.
You're running yourself into the ground trying to give her a good life, and you're succeeding. She's happy, healthy, well-adjusted. But at what cost to yourself?" "That's what mothers do," Maya said defensively. "We sacrifice for our children." "And what happens when you collapse from exhaustion? When you get sick because you're working yourself to death? What happens to Fatima then?"
Gerald's voice was gentle but relentless.
"Let me help, Maya. Really help. Not just in the shadows, but openly." "Help how?" "Move into my guest suite. Both of you. It's a full apartment, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen. Completely separate from the main penthouse. You'd have privacy, security, and Fatima would be safe while I deal with the Castellano situation." Maya laughed, but it sounded borderline hysterical. "You want us to move in with you? Gerald, I barely know you. We've had exactly one conversation 3 years ago, and now tonight. You're essentially a stranger." "I'm not a stranger to Fatima. I've been her silent godfather for 3 years." Gerald pulled out his phone, tapping a few times before handing it to Maya. "Look."
The phone showed a photo album.
Maya's breath caught as she scrolled through, pictures of Fatima at her school play, at the park, at her birthday party last year. In every photo, there was a man in the background, distant but watchful. Gerald, in different disguises, a baseball cap and sunglasses, a maintenance uniform, casual clothes that let him blend in. "You've been following us."
Maya's voice was ice. "I've been protecting you," Gerald corrected.
"There's a difference. I never approached. Never interfered. Just made sure you were safe, that no one dangerous came near either of you. Do you remember that man who followed you home from work last summer? The one who made you uncomfortable for 3 nights in a row?"
Maya remembered.
She'd been terrified, had started carrying pepper spray.
Then suddenly the man had stopped appearing.
"That was you?"
"I had a conversation with him. Made it clear that you were off limits."
"He moved to Boston shortly after."
Gerald's expression was hard. "That's what I do, Maya.
I protect what's mine. And whether you accept it or not, you and Fatima have been mine since the night you saved my life. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one." Maya looked down at Fatima's sleeping face, at the bruise already darkening on her daughter's cheek. She thought about Amanda Whitmore's cold eyes, about Gerald's warning that the Castellanos would want revenge. She thought about her small apartment with its thin walls and faulty locks, about walking home alone at night through neighborhoods that got more dangerous every year.
She thought about being alone. And about not being alone anymore.
1 month, she heard herself say. "We'll stay for 1 month while you deal with whatever needs dealing with. But I'm not your responsibility, Gerald. I'm not some damsel in distress who needs saving. I know exactly what you are." Gerald's voice was rough with emotion.
"You're the strongest woman I've ever met. Strong enough to save a stranger's life. Strong enough to raise a daughter alone. Strong enough to stand up to me right now when most people would just obey."
"But Maya, even the strong need help sometimes. Let me be that help."
Maya wanted to argue.
Wanted to maintain her pride, her independence.
But she was so tired.
Tired of struggling, of barely making rent, of lying awake at night wondering if she was doing enough for Fatima. And here was this man, dangerous, powerful, but somehow gentle with her daughter, offering her a way out. 1 month, she repeated firmly. And I want to contribute. I can cook, clean, whatever you need. I'm not a freeloader. You can contribute by letting Fatima be happy and safe.
That's all I need. Gerald stood, offering his hand. Come on. Let me show you the guest suite.
You can decide if it's acceptable. The guest suite was more than acceptable.
It was stunning.
3 bedrooms, each decorated in warm, welcoming tones.
A full kitchen with granite counters and stainless steel appliances.
A living room with comfortable furniture and a television.
Floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the city.
2 bathrooms with marble finishes and rainfall showers. This is someone's entire apartment, Maya breathed, walking through the space. Gerald, this is too much. It's been empty for 2 years. My mother used to stay here when she visited from Italy, but she passed away 18 months ago. Since then, it's just been sitting unused.
Gerald's voice carried a hint of old pain.
I'd like to see it lived in again. Filled with life and laughter. Fatima's laughter. Maya turned to find him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. There was desire there, she wasn't naive enough to miss that, but also something deeper.
Respect.
Admiration. A longing that had nothing to do with physical attraction. Why me? She asked softly. Really? There must be dozens of people who've helped you over the years. Why are we so special?
Gerald was quiet for a long moment.
When he spoke, his voice was raw with honesty. Because when you looked at me that night, bleeding and desperate, you didn't see a criminal or a business opportunity. You saw a person who needed help. No one in my world sees me like that, Maya. They see power, money, connections, things they can use.
But you saw a man. Just a man.
And you chose compassion over fear. He moved closer, and Maya found herself unable to step back. And Fatima, she reminds me why I fight. Why I built this empire.
I grew up poor, Maya. So poor that some nights we didn't eat.
My mother worked 3 jobs, just like you, trying to give me and my brothers a better life. She died exhausted at 53, her body worn out from decades of struggle. When I see you running yourself ragged for Fatima, I see my mother.
And I think, no. Not again.
Not if I can prevent it. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. I'm not going to die at 53.
No, you're not. Because I'm going to make sure you don't have to work yourself into an early grave. Let me help you, Maya.
Let me honor my mother's memory by making sure another strong, beautiful woman doesn't sacrifice everything for her child. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning.
Maya knew she was at a crossroads.
One path led back to her familiar struggle, exhausting but independent, hard but hers. The other path led into Gerald's world, dangerous but protected, complicated but supported. She looked back toward the living room where Fatima slept peacefully, her small face finally relaxed after the trauma of the evening.
Her daughter deserved safety. Deserved a childhood without fear. Deserved a mother who wasn't so exhausted she could barely think straight. Okay, Maya whispered.
We'll stay.
But Gerald, I need you to be honest with me. About everything. About who you really are, what you really do.
If I'm going to trust you with my daughter's safety, I need to know what we're walking into.
Gerald nodded slowly. That's fair.
And I'll tell you everything, but not tonight. Tonight, you're exhausted, Fatima's hurt, and neither of you needs to hear about the darker parts of my world. Tomorrow, after you've both rested, I'll tell you everything.
No secrets.
I promise. Tomorrow then. Maya felt suddenly boneless with fatigue. The adrenaline that had carried her through the evening was finally wearing off. Let me help you move Fatima to one of the bedrooms, Gerald offered. You should both sleep. Marco will bring your things from your apartment tomorrow, whatever you need. Together, they gently transferred Fatima to the master bedroom, settling her into a bed so soft it looked like a cloud. The little girl barely stirred, just snuggled deeper into the expensive sheets with a soft sigh. She looks peaceful, Gerald murmured, standing at the foot of the bed. The fierce protector had softened into something tender as he watched Fatima sleep.
She is. Finally.
Maya smoothed her daughter's braids, tucking the blanket more securely around her.
Thank you, Gerald. For tonight. For protecting her.
For everything. You never have to thank me for protecting what's mine. Gerald moved toward the door,
pausing in the threshold. Sleep well, Maya. And try not to worry. I've got you both now.
Nothing's going to hurt either of you again. After he left, Maya stood at the window, looking out at the city that stretched endlessly below. Somewhere out there was Amanda Whitmore, probably furious, possibly planning revenge. Somewhere out there was Maya's old life, her tiny apartment, her 3 jobs, her careful budget that never quite stretched far enough. And here, in this luxurious penthouse, was a new life she hadn't asked for but found herself wanting despite every rational reason to run. She thought about Gerald's hands, so gentle with Fatima despite being capable of God knew what violence. She thought about the photos on his phone, evidence of 3 years of silent guardianship. She thought about the way he'd looked at her daughter, with genuine affection, not obligation. What have we gotten ourselves into, baby girl?
Maya whispered to the sleeping Fatima. But deep down, she already knew. They'd gotten themselves into the orbit of Gerald Mendez, a man whose protection came with complications but who offered them something Maya hadn't had in 7 years: security. Safety. The promise that she didn't have to face the world alone anymore. And despite every warning bell ringing in her head, Maya found herself hoping that this time, trusting someone dangerous might turn out to be the safest choice she'd ever made. Maya woke to the smell of coffee and something sweet, pancakes, maybe, or waffles. For a moment, she was disoriented, confused by the softness of the bed, the quality of the sheets, the unfamiliar light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Then memory crashed back. The slap. Gerald. The penthouse. She bolted upright, heart pounding. Fatima. She's in the kitchen with Gerald, came a woman's voice from the doorway. Maya turned to find an older woman with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes, wearing an apron. I'm Rosa, Mr. Mendez's housekeeper. Your daughter is fine. She's been up for an hour, and she and Mr. Gerald are making breakfast. Well, Mr. Gerald is making breakfast. Miss Fatima is mostly eating chocolate chips. Maya scrambled out of bed, suddenly aware she was still wearing yesterday's work uniform, wrinkled and stained. What time is it? Almost 9. Mr. Mendez said to let you sleep. Rosa's smile was warm. There are clothes in the closet for you, new things, all your size. Mr. Mendez had them delivered first thing this morning. And there's a fresh toothbrush in the bathroom, along with anything else you might need. Maya wanted to be annoyed at Gerald's presumption, but she was too grateful for clean clothes to argue. She showered quickly, then examined the closet. True to Rosa's word, it was stocked with clothes, jeans, t-shirts, sweaters, all in her size, all high quality but not ostentatious. Comfortable clothes that someone could actually live in, not the designer pieces she'd expected. She dressed in jeans and a soft gray sweater, then followed the sound of laughter to the kitchen. The sight that greeted her made her stop in her tracks. Gerald Mendez, the man she'd seen command a ballroom full of New York's elite, the man whose very presence made grown men nervous, was wearing an apron that said "Kiss the Cook" and had flour on his face. Fatima sat on the counter beside him, her legs swinging, a chocolate chip in each hand, giggling as Gerald flipped pancakes with exaggerated flourish. And now, Gerald was saying in a terrible French accent, "We add the chocolate chips to the batter, mademoiselle. Very important, the chocolate chips." You sound silly, Fatima giggled. That's not how French people talk. Non? Perhaps you are right. Perhaps I should stick to Italian. Principessa, would you like to help me flip this pancake? Mama says I'm too little to use the stove. Ah, but with me here to help, you are the perfect size. Gerald noticed Maya in the doorway then, and his expression shifted, not embarrassed at being caught in such a domestic scene, but pleased. Good morning. We're making breakfast. Or attempting to, at least. Mama. Fatima's face lit up, though Maya noticed she winced slightly at the movement. The bruise on her cheek was spectacular this morning, deep purple and angry-looking. Mr. Gerald is teaching me to make Mickey Mouse pancakes. I see that. Maya moved into the kitchen, and Gerald immediately poured her a cup of coffee, doctoring it exactly the way she liked, 2 sugars, light cream. She stared at the cup. How did you know? I pay attention. Gerald's voice was quiet. The few times I saw you at the club, you always made your coffee this way during your breaks. The fact that he'd noticed something so small, so mundane, made Maya's chest tight. She took the coffee, letting the warmth seep into her hands. Thank you. They had breakfast together, Mickey Mouse pancakes that were lopsided but delicious, fresh fruit, orange juice for Fatima. It was surreal, sitting in this multimillion-dollar penthouse, eating breakfast with a man who was basically a stranger but who somehow felt familiar. Safe. After breakfast, Rosa took Fatima to explore the rest of the penthouse. There's a library, Miss Fatima, with books that might interest you, leaving Maya and Gerald alone at the kitchen table. So, Maya said, setting down her coffee cup. You promise me honesty. No secrets. And I meant it. Gerald refilled both their cups, then sat back, his expression serious. What do you want to know? Everything. Start with who you really are. Gerald was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. My name is Gerald Antonio Mendez. I was born in Little Italy to parents who immigrated from Sicily with nothing. My father worked on the docks. My mother cleaned houses. We were poor, the kind of poor where you go to bed hungry more nights than not. He stared into his coffee, lost in memory. When I was 15, my father was killed. Workplace accident, they called it, but everyone knew it was murder. He'd witnessed something he shouldn't have, and someone made sure he'd never talk. My mother worked herself to death trying to support me and my 2 younger brothers. I watched her fade away over 10 years, until there was nothing left but exhaustion. I'm sorry, Maya said softly. I was angry. Furious at a world that let people like my parents suffer while others lived in luxury. So I started small, running errands for the local boss, making deliveries I knew I shouldn't ask questions about. I was good at it. Smart, disciplined, ambitious. By the time I was 25, I was running my own crew. By 30, I'd built something bigger than anyone expected. He looked at her directly. I'm not going to lie to you, Maya. I've done things that would horrify you. I've hurt people. I've made choices that keep me awake at night. But everything I've built with one purpose, to make sure that no one in my family, no one under my protection, ever has to go to bed hungry or afraid again. So Maya struggled with the word. You're in the Mafia. The term is complicated. I run a legitimate business empire, real estate, restaurants, import, export. But yes, some of my connections and methods are less than legal. I have power in circles that don't operate in daylight. I make deals that protect people and sometimes hurt others. Gerald's voice was steady, unflinching. I'm not asking you to approve of what I do, Maya. I'm just asking you to understand why I do it. Maya absorbed this, trying to reconcile the man who'd made her daughter laugh this morning with the criminal he was describing. And the Castellanos? The threat against us. Vincent Castellano is old-school Italian mafia. His daughter, Amanda, married into money thinking it would protect her from her father's world. But blood is blood, and when I humiliated her publicly, I humiliated the entire Castellano family. Vincent will want restitution. Meaning he'll try to hurt me by going after you and Fatima. It's how these things work. You strike at what your enemy values most. Gerald's jaw tightened. But he's going to learn that going after you two was the worst mistake he could make. Because I protect what's mine with everything I have. We're not. Maya started the automatic protest. Yes, you are, Gerald interrupted gently. You saved my life, Maya. That created a bond, one I take very seriously. And Fatima. His voice softened. I've watched that little girl grow up for 3 years. I've seen her be brave and kind and brilliant. She's already family to me, even if she doesn't know it yet. Maya didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to run, grab Fatima and disappear before she got any more entangled in this dangerous man's complicated world. But another part, the part that had struggled alone for too long, wanted to lean into the protection he offered. What happens now? She finally asked. Now? Victor and his team will handle the Castellano situation. There will be negotiations, probably some posturing, maybe some violence. Gerald said it matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather. Meanwhile, you and Fatima stay here where it's safe. You don't go back to work at the club. I've already had them mail your final paycheck, with a substantial severance bonus. Gerald, I need to work. You need to be safe. Both of you. Gerald leaned forward. Maya, I'm offering you a choice. You can live here rent-free until the Castellano situation is resolved, and then decide what you want to do. Or, he paused, as if choosing his next words carefully, you could stay longer. Let me help you build a better life for Fatima. One where you're not exhausted all the time.
One where she has stability and security. In exchange for what?
Maya asked suspiciously.
What do you want from me?
Gerald's eyes were intense. I want you to let me be part of your lives. Officially. I want to be Fatima's godfather in truth, not just in the shadows. I want, he stopped, something vulnerable flickering across his face. I want what I saw this morning. Family. Laughter.
Someone who looks at me like I'm a person, not a weapon or an asset.
I don't know if I can give you that, Maya said honestly.
I barely know you.
Then get to know me. Stay here. Let me show you that I'm more than the things I've done.
That I can be someone worth trusting. Gerald reached across the table, not quite touching her hand but close.
I'm not asking for love, Maya. I'm not even asking for romance.
I'm asking for a chance to prove that I can protect you, provide for you, and maybe, eventually, be something more than the man who owes you a debt.
Maya looked at his hand, so close to hers. At his face, scarred and hard but open in a way she suspected few people ever saw. She thought about Fatima's laughter this morning, about the way her daughter had already relaxed around Gerald. She thought about the bruise on Fatima's face and the threat of the Castellanos. She thought about going back to her tiny apartment and her 3 jobs and the constant, grinding fear that she wasn't doing enough for her daughter.
1 month, she said finally. We'll stay 1 month. And during that month, you're going to show me exactly who Gerald Mendez is, the good and the bad.
No secrets, no sanitizing.
If I'm going to trust you with my daughter, I need to know all of you.
Deal. Gerald's smile was small but genuine. Prepare yourself, Maya Smith.
You're about to see parts of my world that I don't show anyone.
I can handle it, Maya said with more confidence than she felt. I know you can. You're the woman who saved my life when you had every reason to walk away.
If anyone can handle my world, it's you. Their eyes met across the table, and something passed between them, understanding, maybe, or the beginning of trust. Maya knew she was stepping into dangerous territory, but for the first time in 7 years, she didn't feel like she was doing it alone. And maybe, just maybe, that made all the difference.
The first week in Gerald's penthouse passed in a surreal blur.
Maya existed between 2 worlds, struggling single mother from Washington Heights and resident of a multimillion-dollar penthouse with a man who commanded respect and fear equally. Fatima adjusted with childhood resilience, her bruise fading as she treated the penthouse like an adventure playground. Rosa adored her, teaching Italian words in the kitchen. Victor's security team became her personal bodyguards, stoic men melting under her innocent charm. Gerald was a constant, surprising presence. He worked from home, taking calls in multiple languages, but always emerged for meals. He taught Fatima chess, played tea party despite his intimidating appearance, and read bedtime stories in mixed English and Italian that made her giggle. With Maya, he was careful, respectful of her space, never pushing, but always present. Coffee appeared exactly how she liked it. Her favorite food showed up at meals. He listened with the kind of attention that made her feel seen. But he kept his promise about honesty. On the 3rd night, he showed Maya his empire's darker side. Financial records mixing legitimate businesses with illegal ones, security footage of interrogation-like meetings, spreadsheets tracking operations in legal gray areas.
This is who I am, he said simply.
I won't apologize, but I won't hide it from you either. Maya looked at the evidence of violence and crime and felt strangely calm. Have you ever killed anyone?
Yes. No hesitation.
Were they all bad people?
Most of them. Some were just obstacles.
One was a mistake I'll regret forever.
Gerald's voice was flat, factual. I'm not a good man, Maya. But I try to be fair.
I have rules: no drugs, no human trafficking, no involving civilians. That has to be enough.
Maya should have been terrified. Instead, she asked about the Castellanos.
Gerald's expression darkened. Vincent wanted a public apology for humiliating his daughter.
I won't apologize. Because that would mean admitting Amanda was right to hit Fatima. That your daughter deserved it.
And that, Maya, is something I will never do. The fierce protectiveness made something warm unfurl in Maya's chest.
Trouble arrived on day 8. Victor burst through the door with urgency.
We need to move.
Now.
Michael Castellano just made a move. 3 men dead. This is retaliation. The secure room was hidden behind a bookshelf, a reinforced space with monitors and supplies. Maya pulled Fatima close as the door sealed shut.
On the monitors, she watched Gerald transform from the gentleman who played tea party into something cold and dangerous. Hours later, Gerald appeared with blood on his shirt, not his own. Michael made his move. We responded. Maya, I need you to understand something. This is escalating into war because I claimed you both as mine. Are you saying we should leave? No. I'm saying you need to decide if you can live in this world.
Really live in it?
Maya looked at Fatima's sleeping face, then back at Gerald. I grew up in the Bronx. I've seen violence. You scare me.
But you also make me feel safer than I've felt in 7 years. Because you're fighting a war to keep my little girl safe.
I'll keep you safe, Gerald vowed.
Both of you, whatever it takes.
Just promise me you'll come back.
Because Fatima's already attached to you, and if something happens, it'll break her heart. Just Fatima's heart.
No, not just hers.
The admission hung between them. Gerald's hand covered hers. I promise. I'll always come back to you both. 2 weeks later, the war continued in shadows and sudden violence. Maya learned to read the signs: Victor's tight jaw, Gerald's Italian calls, the penthouse filling with grim-faced men. But she also saw his legitimate businesses, his community programs, the complicated man trying to do good with money earned through bad means. And Maya was falling for him. The breaking point came 3 weeks in. Gerald had taken Fatima to a bookstore, leaving Maya alone. She found a photograph on his desk, a woman with kind eyes and graying hair. Gerald's mother. Her name was Lucia, Gerald said from the doorway. He told Maya about his mother's dying words, asking him to take care of everyone who couldn't take care of themselves. I let her die thinking her son was good. You are good, Maya said. You protect people. That's what your mother asked. You don't know what you do to me, Maya Smith. How you make me want to be the man you see instead of the man I am.
Maybe you're both.
Maybe that's what makes you real. If I kiss you right now, everything changes. Everything already changed the night you protected Fatima.
Stop acting like I'm fragile. I'm not. I want.
He kissed her, and it was everything Maya hadn't known she needed. When they broke apart, Gerald rested his forehead against hers.
I can't offer you a normal life. I'm not the safe choice.
I don't want the safe choice.
I want you.
But Gerald, I need to know this is real.
Real?
Maya, I've been falling for you since the night you saved my life. Having you here, seeing you every day, Rael doesn't begin to cover what I feel. What followed was passionate and intense. When it was over, they lay tangled together, and Maya felt something settle in her chest.
This was right. I love you, Gerald said suddenly.
I know it's too soon, but I need you to know. I love you too. It's probably crazy, but I do.
Gerald's smile was transformative. He asked her to move into the main penthouse with him, to let him adopt Fatima officially.
I don't want to waste any more time.
Yes, Maya said through tears. Yes to all of it. But peace shattered on a Sunday morning.
Gerald's emergency phone rang. Michael had sent men to Fatima's school, asking questions about her schedule. They're going after my daughter.
They won't get near her. Within hours, they were moving to a secure estate in the Catskills. 2 nights later, Gerald told Maya his plan.
I'm going to give Michael 2 choices: leave New York permanently, or face me directly.
One-on-one.
And if you lose?
I won't. My motivation is you and Fatima.
I cannot lose because you both need me.
The challenge was issued. Michael accepted.
The 3 days before the meeting were the longest of Maya's life. Gerald prepared, put his affairs in order, updated his will.
You're scaring me, Maya told him the night before. I'm being realistic.
If something happens, Victor has instructions. You and Fatima will be protected for life.
I don't want your money. I want you.
That night they made love desperately, as if memoizing each other.
The next morning, Gerald said goodbye to Fatima. I want you to know something. I love you very much.
Soon I'm going to officially be your papa.
Would you like that?
Yes.
Fatima threw her arms around his neck.
I love you, Papa Gerald.
To Maya, he said, come back to us.
Whatever it takes, come back.
I'm coming back.
Wait for me.
Hours passed like days. Then Rosa got the call. He's alive. He won.
Michael Castellano is dead. When Gerald finally walked through the door, bandaged but alive, Maya ran to him.
Fatima launched herself at him, and he caught her. I'm back. Just like I promised. After Fatima settled, Gerald pulled out a small box. I know this is fast. But Maya, I've already waited 3 years. Marry me. Let me be Fatima's father legally. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting and loving both of you. Maya looked at the ring, at Gerald's battered but hopeful face, at the life he was offering, complicated and dangerous but full of love. Yes, she said through tears. Yes to all of it. Fatima squealed from the doorway. Does this mean Papa Gerald is really going to be my papa? Yes, baby. Forever. Standing wrapped in Gerald's arms with Fatima between them, Maya felt complete safety, the deepest safety of being known and loved and chosen. She'd saved a stranger's life 3 years ago, never imagining how it would lead to love found in the most unlikely place. To family built from choice and protection. I love you, she told Gerald softly. I love you too. Both of you. My family. Everything that matters. Despite the violence that brought them here, Maya knew they were going to be okay. Because they had each other. And that was the strongest protection of all. 6 months later. The afternoon sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, catching on the simple gold band now permanently on Maya's left hand. She stood in the kitchen, no longer the guest suite kitchen, but the main one, because this was her home now, watching Gerald teach Fatima how to make his mother's recipe for pasta carbonara. No, Principessa, you must add the egg slowly, Gerald was saying, his large hands guiding Fatima's much smaller ones. Otherwise it scrambles, and then we have scrambled eggs with pasta, which is not the same thing at all. But scrambled eggs are good, Fatima argued, her tongue poking out in concentration as she carefully drizzled egg mixture into the pan. Scrambled eggs are delicious. But today we make carbonara. Next week, I teach you frittata, and you can scramble all the eggs you want. Maya smiled, her hand unconsciously moving to her stomach. She hadn't told Gerald yet, had only confirmed it herself this morning, but there was a new life growing inside her. Their child. A sibling for Fatima. Another piece of the family they were building together. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of change. The wedding had been small and intimate, just family and close friends, held in the penthouse garden with Fatima as flower girl. Gerald's brothers had flown in from Italy, and Maya's grandmother had cried through the entire ceremony. Victor had walked Maya down the aisle since she had no father to do it, and the stoic head of security had gotten suspiciously emotional during the vows. Fatima's adoption had been finalized 2 weeks after the wedding. She was now legally Fatima Mendez, and the joy on her face when the judge made it official had brought tears to everyone's eyes. Gerald had carried her out of the courthouse like she weighed nothing, both of them grinning so wide it must have hurt. Now we add the pancetta, Gerald was saying, and Fatima wrinkled her nose. That's bacon, right? I like bacon. Italian bacon, yes. The best kind. Gerald caught Maya's eye over Fatima's head and winked. Your mama liked it too when I made this for her last week. Everything you cook tastes good, Papa, Fatima said loyally. Then, with the casual innocence of childhood, are you going to teach the new baby to cook too? Maya's hand froze on her coffee cup. Gerald's head snapped up, his dark eyes finding hers immediately. What new baby, Principessa? The one in Mama's tummy. Fatima said it like it was obvious. Rosa told me that when Mamas get that special glow and stop drinking coffee, it means there's a baby coming. Mama hasn't had real coffee in 3 days. Just the pretend kind that smells bad. Gerald was already moving around the counter, his hands gentle on Maya's arms. Maya. She met his eyes, seeing hope and wonder and barely contained excitement. I was going to tell you tonight. I just found out this morning. I'm pregnant, Gerald. About 8 weeks, the doctor thinks. For a moment, Gerald just stared at her. Then a smile spread across his face, not his usual controlled expression, but something completely unguarded and joyful. He lifted Maya off her feet, spinning her in a circle despite her laughing protests, before setting her down carefully and kissing her so thoroughly that Fatima made exaggerated gagging noises. We're having a baby, Gerald said against her lips, his voice thick with emotion. You're giving me another child. We're giving Fatima a sibling, Maya corrected, pulling back to include their daughter in the moment. What do you think about that, baby girl? Want to be a big sister? Fatima's face lit up like Christmas morning. Really? I'm going to have a baby brother or sister. Really, Maya confirmed. In about 7 months. Fatima launched herself at both of them, and they stood there in a three-way embrace, soon to be four-way, Maya thought, feeling complete in a way that seemed impossible just 6 months ago. I need to call my brothers, Gerald said suddenly, already reaching for his phone.
And we need to prepare the nursery.
And find the best pediatrician in New York.
And
Gerald, Maya laughed, catching his hand. We have 7 months. We have time. I just want everything to be perfect for you.
For all of you.
His hand moved to her stomach, resting there with reverence.
My family.
Everything I never thought I'd have. Later that evening, after Fatima was asleep and they lay tangled together in their bed, Gerald's hand remained on Maya's stomach, as if he could already feel the life growing there.
Thank you, he said quietly into the darkness.
For what?
For saving my life. For giving me a second chance. For Fatima. For this baby.
For making me believe I could be more than what I was. Gerald propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at her in the dim light from the city below. 3 years ago, I was bleeding out in a country club kitchen, thinking that was how my story ended.
Alone. No family.
Nothing but blood and violence to show for 40 years of life.
And now?
Maya asked softly. Now I have everything. His hand moved from her stomach to her face, tracing her features with tender fingers. A wife who sees me, really sees me, and loves me anyway. A daughter who calls me Papa and trusts me to protect her. Another child on the way.
A reason to be better than I was. Maya, you didn't just save my life that night.
You gave me a life worth living. Tears pricked Maya's eyes. You gave me one too.
I was so tired, Gerald. Tired of struggling alone. Tired of being strong.
And then you appeared and said, let me carry some of this weight.
You gave me partnership. Family.
Love I didn't think existed outside of fairy tales.
This isn't a fairy tale, Gerald said, but he was smiling.
Fairy tales don't have mafia wars and bloodstained clothes and security details.
No, but they have princes who fight dragons to protect their families. And that's what you did.
Maya pulled him down for a kiss. You're my dangerous prince, Gerald Mendez. Flawed and complicated and absolutely perfect. They made love slowly, carefully, Gerald's hands worshipful on her body now that he knew she carried their child. And afterward, as Maya drifted towards sleep, she heard him whisper against her hair, I will protect you all.
Until my last breath.
That's my vow.
I know, Maya murmured back.
That's why I'm not afraid anymore.
1 year later.
The christening of Antonio Gerald Mendez was held in the same small church where Gerald's mother had been baptized 70 years before. The baby, 4 months old with his mother's eyes and his father's dark hair, slept peacefully through most of the ceremony, only waking to cry during the actual water blessing. Fatima stood proudly as godmother, her 8-year-old face serious with the responsibility. She'd been an amazing big sister, patient and gentle with the baby, even when he cried at 3 in the morning or needed constant attention. Victor stood as godfather, the hardened security chief looking distinctly uncomfortable in his formal suit but honored by the role. Gerald's brothers had flown in from Italy again, and the church was full of family, both blood and chosen. As the priest blessed Antonio, Maya caught Gerald's eye across the baptismal font. He was holding their son with the same careful gentleness he'd shown Fatima that first night, his dangerous hands cradling new life with infinite tenderness.
This was their life now.
Christenings and school plays and family dinners. Security details that had become so normal Fatima didn't even notice them anymore. A penthouse that rang with laughter instead of silent emptiness. Morning coffee, real coffee again now that Maya wasn't pregnant, shared on the terrace while watching the sun rise over the city Gerald had claimed as his. After the ceremony, they hosted a reception at the penthouse. It was crowded with people from both worlds, Gerald's legitimate business associates mixing with those whose operations were less legal, all of them celebrating the newest Mendez.
He's beautiful, Rosa said, cooing at Antonio.
He looks just like his papa.
God help us all if he has his papa's stubbornness, Maya laughed.
He'll need it, Gerald said, joining them and sliding an arm around Maya's waist.
The world is hard.
Stubbornness keeps you alive. Or gets you shot in country club kitchens, Maya teased gently, and Gerald grinned, that rare, unguarded smile she'd learned to treasure. Best thing that ever happened to me, he said. Getting shot, I mean, led me to you.
Worst pickup line ever,
Victor commented as he passed by with a drink. And yet it worked, Gerald called after him, then turned back to Maya.
Are you happy? Really happy. Maya looked around the penthouse. At Fatima playing with Gerald's nephews, at baby Antonio sleeping in his bassinet, at the family and friends gathered to celebrate, at the life they'd built from violence and blood and an act of compassion in a desperate moment.
"I've never been happier," she said honestly.
"This life, it's not what I imagined. It's better. You're better than anything I could have imagined." "Even with the danger? The complications?"
Gerald asked seriously.
There had been incidents over the past year, nothing like the war with the Castellanos, but reminders that his world was never completely safe. "You don't regret choosing this?"
"Never." Maya stood on her toes to kiss him. "You promised to protect us. You promised to love us.
You promised to be the man we need. And Gerald, you've kept every single promise."
"How could I regret that?" "Papa! Mama!"
Fatima ran over, slightly breathless. "Uncle Marco says he'll teach me Italian swear words if you say it's okay."
Gerald groaned.
"Marco," he called toward his youngest brother. "Stop corrupting my daughter," she asked. Marco called back, grinning unrepentantly. "She's 8. I was 6 when Mama taught me my first curse word." Maya laughed, watching Gerald argue with his brother while Fatima watched with delight. This was family, messy and loud and imperfect and absolutely everything she'd ever wanted. Later, after the guests had left and both children were asleep, Maya and Gerald stood on the terrace, looking out at the city lights.
"Do you ever think about that night?" Maya asked. 3.5 years ago.
"When you stumbled into that kitchen bleeding and desperate."
"Every day," Gerald admitted. "I think about how close I came to dying.
How easily you could have turned away. How different my life would be, or rather, how it would have ended, if you'd made a different choice. I think about it too.
About how scared I was.
How I almost did call the police."
Maya leaned into his warmth. "And then I think about everything that came after. Fatima, Antonio, you, this family."
"And I think that moment changed everything."
"One moment of compassion," Gerald mused. "One choice to see a person instead of a problem. And it rippled out into all of this." "Do you think your mother would be proud?" Maya asked softly. "Of the man you've become?
The father you are?" Gerald was quiet for a long moment. "I think she'd be proud that I finally found what she had, a family worth living for. Worth being better for."
He pulled Maya closer. "I'm not a good man, Maya. I've never pretended to be.
But with you and Fatima and Antonio, I'm trying to be a better one. That's all anyone can do, try to be better than they were yesterday."
"You're already better than you think," Maya said firmly. "You're an amazing father. A devoted husband. A man who fights to protect the people he loves. That counts for something, Gerald. It counts for a lot."
If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.
See you in the next story.
"I love you," Gerald said, turning her to face him. In the glow from the city below, his face was softer than most people ever saw it, vulnerable and open in a way he only was with her. "Thank you for saving me.
For choosing me. For giving me this life." "I love you too," Maya replied. "And Gerald, you saved me just as much as I saved you."
"We saved each other." They stood there on the terrace, two people from impossibly different worlds who'd found each other in the most unlikely way. A waitress who'd chosen compassion over fear. A wounded man who'd promised to repay a debt. And from that single moment of connection, a family had been born. Below them, New York continued its restless motion, millions of people living their lives, making their choices, never knowing how a single decision could change everything. But Maya and Gerald knew. They'd lived it. And as they finally went inside to check on their sleeping children, to fall into bed exhausted but content, they both silently gave thanks for that night 3.5 years ago. The night that violence and compassion collided in a country club kitchen. The night that changed 2 lives forever. The night that proved sometimes the most dangerous men can love the deepest. And sometimes the bravest women are the ones who choose to love them back. "Mama, tell us the story again," Fatima begged. She was 11 now, poised and confident, already showing signs of becoming a formidable woman. Beside her, 3-year-old Antonio bounced on his toes, his dark eyes, so like his father's, bright with anticipation. Maya smiled, settling into the couch in their library. Gerald joined them, lifting Antonio into his lap while Fatima curled up beside Maya. This had become a tradition,
the story of how their family began.
Which part do you want to hear?
Maya asked, though she already knew.
The part where you saved Papa, Antonio said immediately.
And the part where Papa saved me, Fatima added.
Maya and Gerald exchanged a look, one of those wordless communications that came from years of partnership. He nodded, giving her permission to tell their story in whatever way she chose.
Once upon a time, Maya began, there was a young woman who worked very hard to take care of her daughter. She was tired and sometimes scared, but she was also very brave. And one night, that bravery changed everything.
Because she helped the bleeding man, Fatima supplied, having heard this story dozens of times.
Because she helped the bleeding man, Maya confirmed. Even though she didn't know who he was or what he did.
She just knew he needed help, and she chose to give it.
And then Papa got better and found us, Antonio said.
And he protected us from the mean lady.
He did, Maya agreed, her hand finding Gerald's. He protected us.
And then we became a family. The best family, Fatima declared with the absolute certainty of a child who'd never doubted she was loved.
The best family, Gerald echoed, his voice rough with emotion he no longer bothered to hide. Not here, not with them. Because your mama taught me something important that night in the kitchen. She taught me that kindness is stronger than fear. That compassion can change lives.
That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is help someone who might be dangerous. Are you still dangerous, Papa?
Antonio asked with a child's directness. Gerald smiled. Sometimes, buddy. When I need to be. To protect our family. Like a dragon, Antonio decided.
You're like a dragon that protects his treasure.
And we're the treasure, Fatima added. Mama told me that's what you call us.
Your treasures.
My greatest treasures, Gerald confirmed, his arms tightening around his son.
More precious than anything else in this world.
Maya felt tears prick her eyes, happy tears, the kind she'd grown accustomed to over the past few years. Tears that came from overwhelming gratitude for the life they'd built. Okay, that's enough story time, she said, her voice thick.
Time for bed, both of you.
But Mama, Antonio started to protest. No buts. School tomorrow.
And you, she pointed at Fatima, have that presentation you've been working on.
Fatima groaned but stood, pulling her little brother to his feet. Come on, Tony.
Mama's using her serious voice. After the children were tucked in and prayers were said, a tradition Gerald had insisted on, carrying forward something his own mother had done, Maya and Gerald returned to their bedroom. The room had been redecorated since Antonio's birth, updated with new furniture and a softer color scheme, but it still felt like their sanctuary.
Do you ever wish for a quieter life? Gerald asked as he undressed, revealing scars earned over years of violence but also the body of a man who was healthy and strong at 46.
One without security details and complicated business dealings.
Maya considered the question seriously. Sometimes, she admitted. When there's a threat or when I see how Fatima has to live with guards.
But then I remember what we have, how you love us, how safe we actually are, how our children will never know poverty or hunger or desperation.
And I think no.
This life, with all its complications, is exactly what I'd choose.
Good, Gerald said, pulling her close. Because I'm not sure I could let you go even if you wanted to leave. You're too much a part of me now.
Obsessive much.
Maya teased. Completely, Gerald agreed without shame. You saved my life, Maya. You don't get to leave now.
It's in the rules.
What rules?
The rules I just made up.
He kissed her, slow and deep. You're stuck with me forever, Mrs. Mendez. Better get used to it. I suppose I can manage that, Maya said against his lips.
After all, someone has to keep you from being too scary.
I'm not scary.
You made a man cry in a business meeting last week.
He was trying to cheat me. He deserved to cry. Maya laughed, the sound echoing in their bedroom, a sound that had become common in this home that had once been silent and cold. See? Scary. But, she grew serious. Also mine.
My scary, protective, impossible man.
Yours, Gerald agreed. Always yours. They made love that night with the ease of long practice, knowing each other's bodies and needs as well as their own. And afterward, as they lay tangled together in the darkness, Maya thought about journeys. How hers had started in the Bronx, poor and struggling. How it had led through years of hardship and single parenthood. How one night, one choice, one bleeding stranger had changed everything. How she'd found love in the last place anyone would look, in the arms of a dangerous man with a violent past and a complicated present. How she'd built a family not from what society said she should have, but from what her heart needed. "What are you thinking about?" Gerald murmured, half asleep. "About how lucky we are," Maya said softly. "How easily things could have been different." "But they weren't different," Gerald replied. "You chose compassion. I chose to honor that. We chose each other. And everything else followed." Simple as that. Simple as that. Maya smiled in the darkness. Nothing about their life was simple. Not the security measures or the complicated business dealings or the occasional threats that still emerged from Gerald's past. But the core of it, the foundation, really was simple. Love. Choice. Commitment. A promise made and kept. "Go to sleep, treasure," Gerald whispered, pulling her closer. "I've got you." And Maya did sleep, secure in the knowledge that Gerald did, indeed, have her. That he'd protect her and their children with everything he had. That the man who'd once been a stranger bleeding in a kitchen was now the center of her world. That sometimes, the most dangerous love is also the safest. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.